Welcome back. Today we're talking with Regina Phelps. Regina, great conversation there in second and first segment. What's our last thing we want to take from the report?
The third thing is about social polarization. So again, I want to just plug this report again. Lots of good information in this. All we have time to talk about is the top three. But the social polarization is a major issue, and I think that ties to the political issues in particular that we're seeing right now in both the United States and also the world. And this is where I think I look at my Canadian colleague and friend, you. Yeah, yeah. And, and think about the social polarization that's occurring. Again, we have social polarization that occurs all the time within workplaces and families, but we have it now happening significantly with other countries. And that's, again, by, I think, the posturing and the positioning of the United States. And so this really ties to, if you look at what happened at the World Conference in Davos, the kinds of speeches that were given, it was a completely different change when you look at social polarization, country to country. And I think remember, this report was written in November and released in the early part of January. The social polarization might even move up and beat out one of the other two that we've just spent time talking about. So I have a lot of concern about this as we go forward, because I know I'm in the US. The United States has always been viewed as a great ally and a great friend. And all of a sudden we've become a pariah because of the leadership of this country currently. And it's horrifying, scary, terrible. I can't describe how bad it is. And I do a lot of work all over the world. And I have clients of mine now that say, we really love you, Regina, but we can't use you because you're from the
Mm,
United States.
yeah.
And so it's no different than changing your vendors out. But this societal polarization is not just within your business, and it's not just within your country. It's this reimagining of the global order, which is going on right now. And that really ties to, I think, what I would like to give a big shout out to you and your prime minister, was the incredible speech that Mark Carney gave at the World Economic Forum, where he beautifully, in 15 minutes, laid out kind of where we are, eloquently, precisely, just an amazing, amazing speech. So I'd like to know, as a Canadian, what did you think of Mark Carney's speech?
Speaking for myself, because I know some people didn't like it, but for myself, I loved it. When I saw it, because I saw it on YouTube later on, the whole thing, that I felt he wasn't speaking for his party. He wasn't speaking to try and win across other party members. He was speaking as a Canadian for all Canadians. And he wasn't speaking to me, he wasn't speaking as a politician. He was speaking as a business person, saying the things that needed to be said, whether you agreed with it all or not.
Right.
Some of that stuff needed to be said. You know, we tell our kids when they're young, don't accept being bullied. You shouldn't be bullied. It's a bad thing. So then why on this level, the federal government levels around the globe, do you accept it?
Yeah.
You want to build friendships in your business, in your communities, in your neighborhoods, and then you get on that level and suddenly it's not the same. And I really liked the way he put things and was calm, didn't get into insults,
Mhm.
or putting other people down. He laid it bare. If you want to go forward, you've got to diversify. You've got to do other things. What worked before may have worked before, but it's not working now. So you've got to make change happen. And it's not going to be easy, but you got to do it. Yeah.
The fact that he laid it so bare was, I thought, so important. And something that you don't normally see in politics or in some sort of geopolitical meeting like the UN or other global bodies, because everybody is making nice, right? Everybody
Mm.
is dancing around and not saying, not addressing the problem in the room, so to speak.
Yeah.
And his speech was so well crafted and so honest. And you could see the audience in Davos is sort of like, just sort of straighten up, like as soon as he started to talk, because I think within the first minute or two, they knew that this was not going to be your average, we're all going to make nice kind of
Yeah.
speech. It was so well crafted. And I love the way he wove in Valhavel's book about the sign in the window, where he talks about how that back in the days of the Czechoslovakia, how everybody was expected to have a sign they put in the window that said "Workers Unite," and everybody did it, but nobody believed it because, of course, it was a communist regime and there was no workers uniting, and yet everybody did it. And at one point, the greengrocer decided that he didn't believe it, and he knew that he would get in trouble, but he couldn't put the sign in the window anymore. And I thought crafting that story in relationship to talking about the United States and its position in the world with its colleagues, I thought was really a powerful metaphor.
Yeah. And as I mentioned, there are people that didn't agree with it. We talked about misinformation, disinformation. I
Right.
know there's pockets across Canada that no matter what you tell them, you can point out the sky is blue when it's blue, and they still won't see that blue. They'll
Mm-hmm.
still see, gray clouds or, whatever. They just will not and refuse to accept reality or the truth. So there are pockets across Canada, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, that, are upset with government, no matter what happens, no matter who's in power. There's always somebody, no politician in the world will make everybody happy. It just doesn't happen, period.
Yeah.
Never has and never will. So, accept that right off the bat.
Right.
And so, but when he spoke up and said this, what he had to say, for me, it was like accepting change.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do the same things over and over again, expect the same result over and over again when that's all changed. You've got to
Right.
accept the change, embrace it, and move forward. That's how you'll prosper. That's what we tell ourselves,
Right.
when it
Right.
comes to risk. Face the risk, learn from it. If you fail, you fall down, whatever, pick yourself up, learn from it, and move forward. Well, that's
Mm-hmm.
what's happening now. Instead
Right.
of you fall down, oh, okay, fine, I'll just stay here. Maybe everything will go away. Well, that's not the way of the world.
Well,
So,
certainly now. Oh my gosh.
and that's what other countries are seeing. That's what businesses are seeing, governments, populations around the globe, different groups are seeing, and unfortunately, some of them are seeing that with the current change, they're not wanted for whatever reason for lies, and misinformation, disinformation, which we talked about in the second segment, that are being spread about them or their neighbors. And, it's so somebody had to, at some point, stand up and say something,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and just say, instead of being fearful of the change and accepting what's going on, face the change, embrace it, and do something about it, learn
Mm-hmm.
from it.
At the end of his speech, I watched it in real time, and then I bet within 5 minutes I must have gotten 25 messages from Canadian friends and clients and colleagues saying, "Have you seen Carney's speech?" And they just were on and on and on. And I thought, what I also really loved about that is it was really a great moment for a certain segment. I obviously not everybody in Canada, but there was just this like, oh my gosh, we're in the game. We have somebody who's willing to speak up. And I just
Yeah.
thought that was incredibly fabulous. Incredibly fabulous.
I
I
think
do,
it helps. I think it helps when he's not a politician. He's never
yes,
been in politics before. He's a businessman, economics major, Bank of Canada, Bank of England,
right.
whatever that position was called, the head of,
Governor,
both the
governor.
governor. Yes, governor. I should know the governor one of the Bank of Canada. You should know that one. But
Yeah, you should. Actually, he was my client for I've done a lot of work for the Bank of Canada. And when I first started doing jobs for them in 2008, he was the governor. And so he was really something.
yeah, he was well liked from what I've heard,
Yeah.
from people as well. So, It's nice to have someone who thinks differently,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
that's what we need because it's driving more and if we continue on the path we're on, then there will be more division, more impact to communities, more impact to people, livelihoods, supply chains, partnerships, business models that have been successful for years suddenly will fail.
Yep.
And so we have to look at things differently and embrace it, embrace the change.
Mhm. So we've only talked about three of the risks that are in the global risk report. And I just want to say that the other thing that before we end our session here today, is that historically, there have always been a lot of environmental issues that have been listed in the top 10 or the top 100 short-term risks, which are 2 years, because there are so many pressing global issues that are even beyond climate change. Many of those extreme weather events have actually fallen substantially in the 2 year risks. And so, and because, Canada's like California, we have lots of drought issues, we
Mm.
have lots of wildfires, and that's certainly something that we live with every day. But what's interesting is that extreme weather events have really fallen down on the list, as well as pollution related issues. Even cybersecurity was number 6, where I think last year it was number 3. So many of the things that we normally plan for have actually dropped down. And so I think when people look at this report, what I want them to do is think about our conversation, think about these kinds of issues that are important, but to broaden your view, because frankly, many of us, especially if you have a lot of different vendors, a lot of different supply chain issues, just at minimum, you need to really do a deep dive into where you get everything and
Mhm.
how you relate with all of your vendors and even your customers. Your customers may not want you anymore. So
Yeah.
this is a big deal from a resiliency and crisis management perspective. So what we're not talking about politics here today. We're talking about what we do for a living. And that's why I want people to really think about this when they actually look at it. Because I think, again, it will give you a lot of ideas. The second thing I just want to mention about this report is that maybe your management doesn't follow this or doesn't know this. This is an opportunity for you to show that you are more strategic in your thinking, that you're looking more broadly and not just in the narrow space that you are within the organization. And it gives you an opportunity to both educate individuals. So a lot of my clients, what I do is I will send this to them and say, have you seen the global risk report this year for the economic forum? These are the top 3 or 4 things that you might want to look at. And the idea is it helps them maybe because they're also running a million miles an hour and they've got their head down. Maybe it makes them sort of sit back and go, oh, what, right. And I think that's important. So I think we have the opportunity to educate executives. We have the opportunity to provide them information. And this is a good example how you can be viewed as a contributor in ways that maybe
Mhm.
they haven't thought about you before. So strategy is important, looking at the overall risks of an organization, which is part of our task. But I think many times people will look at continuity planners as just a planner
Yeah.
and not somebody who's thinking beyond that. And I think we have the opportunity to stretch our image of ourselves, but also really become more of a resource also of information. So I encourage our colleagues to go get the risk report, read it carefully, and then, share it with people within your organization. Gee, I read this in the Global Risk Report. If you're familiar with that, here's a copy of it, and you'll find this on page 14 or whatever,
Yeah.
just so they can be, again, stretching their minds and also providing more value. Because when things get tough, and we've talked about this many times before, when things get tough and people are starting to cut line items on budgets, continuity planning, in particular resiliency, can be viewed as a extra. And as things get tighter economically, which I imagine they're going to, what's going to happen is that they may look at how we can reduce workforce, reduce department sizes, and resiliency will be on that list.
Yeah.
Because they'll ask, when was the last time the bad thing happened that you planned for? And you're probably going to say, oh gosh, it's been a while. then you better be providing value beyond the fact that you're going to be really helpful for when the bad thing happens.
Right. And build that bridge with your enterprise risk management group.
Absolutely.
I know you mentioned risk there. Build that bridge, work with them.
Mhm.
And because there may be bits and pieces they're unaware of. They may be only
Right.
looking at it from their company view. You're looking at it from a bigger view, and you can
Right.
add value in that, like you said. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
we've come to the end of our show, believe it or
Woohoo!
not. We actually did all three segments within the 16-minute time frame. I think that's a first for us.
I was going to say, I don't think we've ever done that, have we?
Yeah, I don't think we've ever done that.
We're so disciplined today. I can't figure it out. Wow. Impressive.
Regina, always a pleasure. I'm glad you were my first guest for 2026. So thank you so much for sharing your time and thoughts again with us.
You're welcome, Alex. It's a delight to be with you as always.
And everyone watching and listening, stay prepared, everybody.